about that introduction, because it's a long way from a family dairy farm up here in Southeastern Kentucky on the river bottom. Some of you might know that geography. Long before it was developed to what it is today. I'll talk a bit about that. Some of you heard me introduce myself maybe at the Lincoln Day dinner, and thank you for the committee that put that on. A wonderful down-home event, very well done, very professional, reflected well on the conservatives and the GOP of this county, our state, and this nation. For a round of applause for that. A lot of hard work there. If you had to manage a lot of personalities, we'll just leave that on the table. All right, but she did it deftly. A couple things that I kick off here. General, I want to thank you for those remarks, and I'll expand on those a little bit. I am humbled and honored what you had to say. And I want to do a couple thank yous very quick. So, for Nick, if I'm saying his name right, Ciparoni, and Janet Smith, okay, I want to thank you for hosting this and again, having me here today. I got farm work done this morning. I was on the radio show with Cincinnati, and it was not about me. We wanted to pay tribute, and I'll talk to you about the rescue of that down there crewman, and some of the service members here well understand the nature of that operation. Although they're talking a lot about SEAL Team 6, I'll say a little bit about that. That was a team effort to get that done, wasn't it, gentlemen? Whole lot of unsung heroes behind the scenes got that done. Amen. And the Osborns, owners, are any of them in here right now?
They're not in here right now.
All right, I want to thank them. This is a lovely location. I've been here, oh gosh. I've been hosted by a couple of the folks here. I don't mind them, it may have been Brian Newcomb, y'all might know of Newcomb Oil. I've been here a couple of times, ate lunch and what all with folks, really nice folks coming here. They raise Holstein heifers. I don't know if y'all do that, know that. They do. The replacement heifers. That's right up my alley, being on a dairy farmer. Never mind, they're 5 stars. Although every time I'm there, I take a picture. You know, I'm sending Brian, here I am. And also, Jody and Carolyn Hayden, I got that right, pillars of the community that built this, and they had a vision. This is more than a golf club, it's a community center. It's about relationships here, and so God bless them and what they did. All right, and they have a storied background, do they not, in what they've done for our Commonwealth, City Council, Kentucky House of Representatives, correct? So those kind of people made our nation great. I stand on the shoulders of folks like that have gone before us. So thank you for letting me make those remarks. Then I want to thank all y'all for being here. And I want to challenge you. It's not what happens in this room here today. It's what happens afterwards. When you go out and you think about what was discussed here, what you think of ED GALLREIN, and what you want your future for you, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, your families, your communities to look like. Because I'm going to ask you to send me to Washington, not to Congress, but send me to Washington to be your champion for all of Washington. It's not just about the seat in Congress. It's larger than that, if it makes sense. Does that? I don't have the luxury of just being one of 435 in that house. Oh no, my role is to represent you larger than that, isn't it? Not just with those other 434 elected officials. I've got to be able to reach out and get things done, good services, policy, legislation, because it's about our kids and our grandkids, isn't it? What I'd like to do, if I could, and I apologize for the raspy voice, y'all might remember the rally the president had a couple weeks back up here in Boone County. Somebody of y'all see that? Did you see that where he said, "It hurt my hand"? Did y'all see that? Anybody? Okay. Well, I did give him the farm boy hand squeeze, and that's about the 3rd time. That was the 2nd time, and I made him again since. And I think I shared. How many people were at the GOP event? Just so I'm about repeating myself. A number of you were. Hands that were at the GOP. If y'all don't mind, I don't mean to be tedious. I'm going to share with the rest of the folks about the president, because I think you should know this before I kick this off, and how I got in front of you. Could I do that?
Yeah. Amen.
So it would have been October. Up here on the farm, I get a text, Mr. GALLREIN, and it's not from a Washington, D.C. area code. I know those because I spent a lot of time TAD, temporary in the military terminology, to Washington, working with other senior military organizations and let's say intelligence agencies, and it wasn't a Washington, D.C. area code. Mr. GALLREIN, would you be available to meet with the president on Friday? He'd like to meet with you. Well, first of all, Mr. GALLREIN's Uncle Bill, he's 95 right now. He's done checking the cattle, and I'll guarantee he's down there at the shop seeing what we're up to, and he's asking where I'm at. So give me some grace here when I leave at 12, and I got to check in with Uncle Bill. So all that to say, I ignored it because many times we are, I'm going to use the word loosely, targeted by foreign intelligence or agencies to try to fish us and get us to click on stuff, and they've got my name. With a TSSCI clearance, they got those when they cracked into our Office of Personnel Management database a number of years back. China got all those. Well, the next day I get a call from somebody placed here in Kentucky, said, hey, that's really the president's office trying to get hold of you. He'd like to meet with you. Didn't say why. Well, I called up the nice lady and apologized, because I'm Kentucky nice, and it looks like I ignored her a little bit. Sorry, young lady. And so go on up there, fly myself up there, spend the night, go on over to see the president. This picture right here is Friday, 17 October. And I'm going to talk about this picture. You ladies are going to chuckle out of this, so bear with me. So go on up there to meet with him, get on into the White House. For full disclosure, I've been to the White House before, but not to the Oval Office. I've been to the Situation Room. As some of the service members, especially the general, can attest to, there's certain, let's just use the word, activities, operations, and missions that are highly sensitive that only the President of the United States can approve and direct. Do I have that right, General? And that's usually done out of the Situation Room in proximity to him. And a couple times they'll do releases and show a little picture, but all that to say, when I wear the uniform for you, as he attested to, and I'll talk about that symbology as a general explained, I'd been there before for such. So, and so all that to say, up there in the White House, and it's the day that Zelensky fellow's coming in after lunch, so there's like 20 Suburbans out there, blacked out glass, waiting for him to come in with his entourage. You got all the cabinet that goes with those meetings in there. So a dairy farmer from Valley Station, Kentucky is going in to meet with the president. So go on in there to meet with him. And a couple things about the president, and you should know this. And when I look at the numbers, this county, the president carried by north of 80%.
Amen.
We knew what we were voting for to stand against the radical Democrats, and all you need to do is watch that State of the Union. And it's like, you gotta be kidding. And have I got that right?
Yeah.
For the love of Pete, who are these people? Well, all that to say, get on up there and go on in to meet with him. I reach over to that Resolute desk and I give him the farm boy hand squeeze from Kentucky, sir, Ed GALLREIN from Kentucky. He gives me the New York construction site hand squeeze right back. And you know what he says? I love my farmers, I don't do that very well, but I did get a chuckle out of it, but I didn't do that. So we sat down there with the president, and for the folks that got military or government service background, you know that all materials in that world have got to be marked unclassified, confidential, secret, top secret SCI code word, etc. And he had in front of him was this nice leather binder, appropriate for a president, TS-SCI Ed GALLREIN, Captain U.S. Navy, retired. So he's got that book right in front of him. Ladies, I'm sorry to say this, kids, cover your ears. He knows when I farted in church in the second grade at St. Paul's, and Sister Mary Fulgens took me right out that side door. Now, have I got any Catholics in here? All right. Well, as you know, back in the day, we went to church at the parochial school 5 days a week. And then we went on Sunday with our grandparents. And the nuns in the parochial school, they'd sit at each end. Oh, yeah, they knew when I farted that I got it. Out the door I went. Sister Mary Fulgens, I'm convinced she was a Chicago Bears linebacker before she went to the convent. Oh, she was tough. Anyway, so all that to say, he had that book in front of him. And the first thing he says to me is, go, Ed, you got a lot of college. That's the first thing the president says to me. Now, before I went in there, they got can I tell y'all this story? Because I want you to know about the president. It's not about me. Well, I got a couple of them political staffers, and they're just doing laps around me, going, Ed, are you nervous? You shouldn't be. Well, I don't know, Ed. We never know what he's going to say. You never know what the president's going to do. Ed, you okay? You need anything? You need some water? And them boys are going around me and said, well, let's see. I ain't getting shot at, rocketed. I ain't going to get an IED on the way in there. But I got to get home. I got a 5:30 flight, and I got to put a bail out tonight, because if I don't get that bail out, I'll be crossways with Uncle Bill. And you don't want to be crossways with Uncle Bill. So all that to say, I said, I'm good. And one other thing, so on the way in, I figured out how this worked, and you ladies will do an aha. You go, yeah, we knew that. So there's a desk right here, like so. The Oval Office is right there. So like right about where the general's sitting, if he's a little bit over in that other chair, that's where the president's desk is, and he can look in and see her. Then she's got a big meeting room over here. Well, this lady right here, working for that Miss Wiles, rules the work. Well, now Susie wasn't sitting here, but this lady works for Susie. She's called the first secretary or something. She's got an entry title. And I get in there and I get to talk to that young lady. And the president is looking like this. He keeps leaning over looking at us. And she finally says, well, Mr. GALLREIN, I think you need to go on in. The president's ready. I said, well, call me Ed. But we'd already talked for a bit. And I went on in there and I, like I said, shook his hand. And the first thing he says to me, and he opens up the book, Ed, you got a lot of college. And I said, sir, I never liked college much. we're gonna have a conversation. I only know how to be me. That's what I told him. And I'll come back to that in a minute. Well, we went on to have a conversation about everything under the sun. There was no script. We just started talking. A couple things. He looks 20 years younger in person. I don't know what's going on with them cameras. And I'm sitting there thinking, y'all might remember that was the week that he was over in the Mideast and signed the Hamas peace accords, and we knew they wouldn't put down their weapons, right, General? No way. No, they're controlled by the Iranians. They're going to continue the fight. Then he came back through Egypt. He expanded the Abraham peace accords. He also pulled in some economic connective tissue to sustain peace and prosperity, because you need to get him into the game with some economic ties. He came back and did that award for Charlie Kirk. Proud to have that T-shirt over there, Freedom. But he stood there an hour and a half plus. Shoot, I couldn't do that. Well, I probably could, but anyway. But you know, he's an Iron Man, and so I'm in there on Friday. He looked like a spring chicken, and so we're just talking, and a couple other things about him. When he wanted something, I think he asked to get a glass of water for us or something. There's a nice young lady sitting there, and he didn't tell her. He said, "Caitlin, could we all get a glass of water?" He said, yes, Mr. President." She went on and came right back. Then while we were talking, he wanted a piece of paper from another young man in there, and he said, "Oh yes, Mr. President, I'll go get it." He asked. He didn't tell anybody anything. And we've been in businesses, or you just name the organization, you can tell when folks are on eggshells, can't you? There's no eggshells there. I tell you what, y'all see I'm a struggling extrovert. I stuck my head in half them offices up there and said hi to them people from Kentucky. How y'all doing? All them nice folks in the White House. So it was wonderful to see that. Anyway, so all that conversation we talked about a little bit ever under the sun. I want to tell you when the conversation changed, so you understand really what put me in front of you here today, that changed my life. Sorry about that. The reason I'm Raspy when he came again to finish that point out to the rally, I showed up there, and of course, Stacey, I showed up in my go-to-town farm clothes, had my good Carhartt vest on, my good jeans. I think I had these boots on. It's raining cold. I think, well, maybe they'll just let me go on stage with this. I was thinking, but what happened? They go, no, you got to get in your suit. But all that to say, I showed up there and I looked, and there was some nice people, grandparents, kids, parents, all shapes and sizes. If we're going to stand that dadgum rain, I'm going to stand there with you. I walked that entire line and thanked them people. God bless them for coming out to see the president. It wasn't about me. That's a level of commitment you can take away from Ed Gallerein. It's not about me. So, and I've had this raspy voice since, and I know Stacey's fussed at me, and I've been doing some bits and pieces for it. But anyway, to finish that out, so the president, smart as can be, we're talking about everything under the sun, just about 30 minutes in the conversation. One other thing I want to add, and again, the general understands this, colonel understands this, some of the military. On his desk, he's got a TSSCI phone called a gray phone. He can talk right to CIA or other agencies at the very highest levels. He's got a secret phone. You can't talk secret on the phone, can you, General? That phone's only for secret. It gets complicated, ladies, I know, but we got to keep it simple, us guys. And then he's got an unclasped phone. That phone never rang. We were not interrupted. The most powerful man in the world, why were we not interrupted? He empowers his people. You leaders know that. General, you and I, it'd be a hard day for us back in the 06 command position to get 30 minutes like that, wouldn't it? Because he empowers his people. That's the takeaway. Here's your resources. Here's what's expected from you. Get out there and make it happen. Then in about 30 minutes, turned, and y'all might know he's got that portrait of Reagan up over his left shoulder. Have you noticed that? And I just said spontaneously, I said, Mr. President, out on the farm, because I'd already told him all about the family and Uncle Bill and what we do, because he was interested. I said, back on the farm, we were real tickled. You pulled that portrait of President Reagan over there and put it over your shoulder. Did anybody notice that? Isn't that something? Got some Reagan folks in here? Boy, he turned around our nation after that hot mess, didn't he? Well, right then the conversation changed like a snap of a finger. He turned and he looked at me like he was reading a teleprompter, but he wasn't. He's looking right in my eyes. He said, Ed, he said, I don't have two terms like President Reagan. And he's stone cold. He's not, this isn't over the top. He's not flamboyant. He's just talking directly to me, looking me in the eye. I don't have two terms like President Reagan. I got one that knocked the agenda I was elected to do. He said, every month counts, every week counts, every day counts, every hour counts, every vote in the House and Senate counts. You need to serve again. Your district needs you, your party needs you, your nation needs you. You need to serve again. And again, he wasn't over the top about it. He was very matter of fact. Then there was an awkward silence. Y'all ever been in a meeting and a couple people got something to say and they start squirming and they ain't figuring out who's gonna say it? Well, them two young guys about sitting there with me, and they're political, they're not government. They get to squirming and they're looking back at each other, and I'm just sitting there, because I'm not candidate for anything, but he doesn't know that, I guess. So all that to say is one of them boys spoke up and said, Mr. President, Mr. Gallrein is not a candidate for anything, but wait for Truth and Advertise, I was a candidate for Grandfather of the Month down there in Shelby County. Got some grandparents, where you at? I already talked to some of them. Oh, aren't they precious? If the math would have worked, we'd have jumped straight to grandkids, right? But it doesn't work. I know I say that all the time. The youngsters, sort of just roll their eyes at me. But it's true, isn't it? They're precious. And so, Mr. President, here's what your president did. The man you elected, I want you to know this about him. Here's what he could have done. He goes, look, Gallrein, I just spent 30-something minutes with you. I got this Zelensky fellow out there. I got half my cabinet in the next room waiting for me. Says, you need to do this. I just had this talk with him. He didn't do that. He could have said, Gallrein, here's what we're going to do. I'll do this for you. You do this for me. He didn't do that. He could have said, Gallrein, the clock's ticking. It's 17 October. We ain't got a lot of runway left. Let's get on with this. He didn't do that. By the color of hair in here, I see some wisdom and leadership. Could I say that? No, seriously, that's a compliment. Because we live in the gray. We get it, don't we? You get our age, don't we? There's gray out there. He didn't do anything. You know what he did? As fast as he pivoted, when I said, sir, and I didn't know what he's going to say when I said, sir, we're a real family was real glad, back there at the farm, Gallrein, we was all real tickled you moved that portrait over. I didn't know what he was going to say. But then when that one boy said that, as fast as he said that other, he looked right at me. He said, Ed, you go on home, you talk to your family, you pray on this, and he said, I'm going to endorse you in life and whatever you're going to do. I want you to think about that. The leadership it took to do that. What was in front of him when I sat down there? Everything I'd ever done. He knew everything about me. Oh, he'd been briefed. He ain't gonna meet with anybody like me until he's briefed, is it? He already knows me. But what did he do for that 30 minutes before we got that conversation? He wanted to hear who I was. Because this conversation was never, he wants to talk to you about this, Ed. It changed when I brought up that piece on Reagan. It pivoted. What I want you to take away from that is nothing about Ed Gallrein. He's our president. And really what a leader he is, despite what the mainstream media and other politicians will say about him. Now let me add to that what happened next. So after that, he's as cordial. He's as cordial as can be. It's like he's from Kentucky. In terms, how we're known to be Kentucky nice. So he says, Ed, come on over here. I want you to take something back to Uncle Bill. Where's Isaac? Where you at, Isaac? Where's young Isaac? Over here. Hey, where'd you go? Hey, Isaac, come on. Well, never mind there. Hey, Tris, come on over. Do you mind hold up that hat over there for me? He says, come on back here. I want you to take his hat to Uncle Bill. And so he says, and I want you to have one too. And that's why there's two hats here. One for Uncle Bill. He thought of that. I didn't ask him for it. Think about how gracious that is. Can you pass that hat around? Your president did that. That's mine. Uncle Bill's got his. And then what happened? You ladies are going to get a chuckle out of this. Then he gave me that coin. And I want y'all to know, when you send me to Washington, that's how close you're going to be to President Trump. He will take my call. He knows I can't be bullied, bullshit, or bought. He knows that. He knows what he got into when he said, Ed, I want you to run. He knows my background. He knows what I stand for. So all that to say, that's how close you will be to our president. All right, so then y'all will get a chuckle out of this, ladies, to tell you what kind of guy the president is. So what happened here was he gives me that hat, and I turn around and click when them young boys took a picture fast, and you say, iPhone. And then I get home, my kids say, oh, Dad, that's Photoshop, that's not real. And our kids drive, I go, no, that's real. I said, that's real, let's meet the president. So let me tell you about the suits, and I'll get back and close out on this. So then the president turns to me, very matter of fact, and goes, Ed, that's a good-looking suit. Did you have that made for just coming up here? No, seriously. And I go, no, sir, I've had this suit for 20 years. I got it at Joseph Banks, All right, where's the guys with that one good suit? Come on, let's see your hands. Where you at? There you go. You just changed the tie, maybe the shirt, whether it's a wedding or a funeral. It's in plastic, and I told my kid, that's my one good suit up in the closet. Y'all see, it's got plastic on it. It's got a couple, 3 extra ties. I didn't know what he's going to wear, but I thought I better wear and be patriotic. I better wear my one good suit. Now I want you to think, but then he goes, it's a good-looking suit, Ed. You know what one of his team told me later? He asked about going to Joseph Banks. He did. And the young guy said, yeah, a whole lot of the young kids in here go to, the millennials, that work in here, go to Joseph Banks, Mr. President. He says, well, I might have to get on down there. That's the funniest thing, wasn't it? Then what he did, he walked me around that Oval Office. A farm boy from a dairy farm on the river bottoms of Valley Station. He walked me around that office like I was royalty. Was so polite, talked to me about some of the historic pieces he put in there and why he did it for the symbology of the American people. And he walked me right over the door and didn't say another word about the conversation we had. So I did go home, think about it, pray on it, talk to Uncle Bill. And Uncle Bill's a man of few words. He said, yeah, you need to get on up there. That place is a mess, and that boy ain't getting nothing done for us, meaning my opponent. And so on the morning of the 21st, I declared to run. I wanted to share that with you, not about me, but about your president, because so many negative things are said about him. I've met with him 2 times since. He's authentic, he's genuine, and he's got our nation, at heart. I met with J.D. Vance, and I'll say the same thing about him. If you ran into him in the parking lot, it'd be like you saw him 3 days ago at church or maybe at a kid's ball game, and they pick right up where they left off. We got more pompous politicians in Shelby County than those two, and I won't name any names, but we'll just let that go. All right, so thank y'all for letting me share that with you. Got a little windy there, but now I want to shift and just tell you about me very quickly if I could. Ed GALLREIN, as I said, 5th generation farmer, grew up on a dairy farm. Anybody who knows anything about that's half prison sentence in it. Yeah, but not just a dairy farm. How big was a big dairy farm down here in Nelson County in, say, 1975? How many cows?
A big one was 200.
We were putting 450 through the line twice a day. Biggest Holstein dairy farm in about a 3-state area. And that was flat dadgum work. Now I want you to hold that thought. You know how much alfalfa, hay, and corn silage that is? A bunch. So my life was that. I got off the bus, I got my boots on, I got to the barn. When I was 12, working like a grown man, 16, you're leading grown men because that's what you do in family farming. At one time it was 4 generations, great-grandparents, grandparents, my dad, the older brother, and then of course me and my Uncle Bill was the next house down, all 4 in a row, old farm style. My dad and I transitioned to row cropping, corn, soybeans, cover crop, wheat, and barley. Y'all understand that. We moved down to south of Bowling Green to Logan County, and that's why I went to Franklin Simpson. I'll talk about here in a minute, because we had 100 acres that lapped over. It was before Logan County, 3rd largest county by land mass in the state before they consolidated the high schools, and I would have gone to Dareville High, would have had 13 people in my graduating class. And not that it would have been a wonderful experience, but Franklin Simpson was a 3A, really a 2A school. We had football, and they had a few more, opportunities, bigger FFA and all that. So I went on over because we had that land that lapped over in one big field, and that's how I ended up over Franklin Simpson. And then went on, as I said, here to Murray State, Mighty Racer Nation, Ag Major, undergrad production, Ag Masters, Ag Econ, and Finance. And then I want to talk about getting into the service, and I appreciate the comments by the general, because you're going to see a theme in here that I want you to understand about my commitment. So in 1983, what was going on in the world? Who was president? And it was a hot mess, wasn't it? We had it going on with the Iranians, didn't we? It's not unlike now, a little different. We had a little dust up with, let's see, that guy Gaddafi, didn't we, in Libya? And had to take him to the woodshed, Navy did. We had urgent fury down in Grenada when those communist guerrillas took over the island, took those U.S. citizens, prisoner that was down there at hostage, that were down there at that med school. And we had a whole lot going on, largely classified, in Central and South America with the Soviets that were doing 2 things, running drugs and money, running money in there and guns to fuel the narco traffickers and to fuel unrest and basically revolution, to overthrow some of the countries down there. And he confronted that with a number of direct and indirect approaches. But the key thing he did was turn our economy around. Remember how we defeated the Soviets? We never had to fire a shot or a missile, did we? We defeated them because we outpaced them with technology, and we outpaced them with the buildup of our government, all righty? Having said all that, I took a look going around, and I'm from a farm in Kentucky. And I said, somebody's got to do something, and it just won't be me. If not now, when? Isaiah 6:8. And I took a look at all the different options out there, and there was no online, was there, in 1983? There was no Google, it wasn't. Was it? Look at the chuckle over here. World was a lot better than it was, Jones. Yeah, and I'm okay with party lines. Of course, all your business is going to be out there, you know, in the community fashion. You say whistle Dixie. But all that to say, I took a look around, and it did strike me, I got to do something. I'm 26 years old. I'm not some young kid straight out of high school. I got all that farming background. I got all that life. And I did the research, and I said, these Navy SEALs, who are these? There were no books or movies, were there? There was no recruiting for them, was there? No. And I sought it out. And I want you to understand this. I didn't join to be a Navy SEAL. This is going to be a little nonsensical. I joined to have the most impact I could for our nation.
Amen.
And the way to do it, I had the audacity to think I could be a Navy. I'm a farm boy from Kentucky. I learned to swim in the Ohio River in an irrigation pond. I beat the water out of it. I played football as a lineman. I'm no triathlete. You got to get a sundial out for me, meaning I'm not real fast, but I got no quit in me. But I said, that's what I'm going to do. Never met one. There were some interviews I had to go through and so forth and so on. So that's how I entered to Officer Candidate School. You can get a commission, as you kids right here know, through the academies, ROTC, or if you have your degrees and you make it through the screening, you come in through OCS. That's how I came, and I went off and served for a career spanning 3 decades at 7 SEAL teams. A SEAL team, very quickly, so the public understands it, some of the military understand, it's essentially a battalion. It's a fighting element. It trains, equips, and when it directed, it deploys. It's roughly 200. A little over half are SEALs, but it's got all other kind of skill sets in it. SEAL Team 6 is different, classified, I won't go into it, but a SEAL team is an entity, and the officer is going to transfer every 1 to 3 years, and he has no choice in it, does he, gentlemen? That's why they're called orders. So I did serve you along the way. Senior leadership sent me to get a master's in financial management. Ed, why did they send you to get that degree? Because as a senior officer, right, General, I'm making big resourcing decisions on everything from brick and mortar to workforce to everything in between, and all that to say I got to make good decisions. I didn't have to run the numbers, but I had to make sure my people did the right computations, and I asked the right questions, so we didn't sign up for something that we couldn't afford. I want to talk about that for a second. Dairy farmers are legendary with being frugal, aren't they? Mm-hmm. We can squeeze a nickel. I want you to add a Master's of Science in Financial Management. Anybody know anybody? It's not an MBA. Anybody know anybody with a Master's of Science in Financial Management? That's the deep end of the pool on numbers. So, and then I've got a Master's in Operational Intelligence. That's not military. That's the entire U.S. intelligence apparatus. So I could be a better leader because we work that in the world of high-end special operations. There's a narrow band between peace and war. We're at war all the time. That's not hype, and it's not flamboyance. SEAL Team 6, Delta, other units, mercifully that remain classified, live in that world every day. We don't have the luxury of being at peace. And you just see some of that being divulged now with the raid to get Maduro and what happened in the last 48 hours where SEAL Team 6 was part of the rescue force to get that down air crewman out. So all that to say, and then I was sent to the war college, and I didn't have a choice. But when you get very senior, it's a sabbatical to learn how to think and act strategically and advise our nation's leadership on the things that keep us safe. So I did all those things. But at my root, I'm a Navy SEAL officer and yes, an Army Ranger. That is, as he said, that's very atypical. I think we're mostly, we get with the Big Blue Nation here. We got U of L fans. Where's my U of L fans? We got some Cardinal fans. Well, I hope we can. I hope we can bury the hatchet. I was on the Murray team that beat the Ville at the Ville 13-9. No, we did. They're the worst astroturf in the world, but we ushered in the Schellenberger area, so we sort of gifted you because they brought in Schellenberger that changed everything after that. 42 country boys on a hay truck and wagon came up and took them to the woodshed. They had 9 guys go pro on that team, to include the legendary Joe Jacoby. I can't say enough good things about him. That boy was a mountain. We out-cricked him all night, but I mean, there wasn't a dirty bone in his body. He's a good, clean ball player. Nice man, that Joe Jacoby. I can't say no. First prototype 300-pound lineman, if y'all remember. No, seriously, when he went to the NFL, now they're all 300 pounds. But anyway, we whooped him. David versus Goliath. So anyway, I served in that vein. Then I was asked to stay on as a senior advisor for government, let's say, sensitive activities and government security operations. And again, that's all at the TSSCI level. So I know well the threats that face our nation all the way to these communities here. Those drugs aren't coming from a couple of people in a tent in Mexico. It's our foreign adversaries behind the scenes fueling all that as a disruption operation to undermine and divide our nation. Additionally, with respect to the information war, this is the most volatile time since pre-World War II. That's not hype, bear with me on this. People will stand in front of those cameras, whether elected or appointed, talk like Americans, talk English. They have either wittingly or unwittingly been what we call compromised. They are not professing what really protects our great nation, and we saw it on full display during the State of the Union. And then finally with the media, if y'all, who remembers Pravda? The propaganda arm of the Soviet Union. Many of us remember Pravda. Oh yeah, well Pravda on its best day couldn't match what 99% of the media does here every day. You just shake your head, don't you? Well, I'm running against all that. The other boys got him in his corner, full up. I think what I'll do now is I'm gonna step over here and I'm gonna share some of this symbology because it's powerful. Again, whether I said nothing here today and you just walked over here, there's a couple things I want you to know and I want to share. And I want to thank you folks for bringing these youngins out because they are our future. And that's part of the reason I'm running. I got an equity here, it's called 5 grandkids. And as I prayed on that, and we're on the grandparents, we have a lot of sleepless nights wondering what we're going to leave for our grandkids, don't we? And we're farther from it than we worry, don't we? Oh boy, with what I know, I worry. As a general thing, when you live in a TSSCI, that's the world of pager bombs. That's the world of code word ops. And after 40 years in that environment, I no longer believe in coincidences. Things happen, things are not always what they appear. Do y'all remember the little deception op during the rescue? Oh, we got him out, came out. Yeah, things are not always what they appear. So sometimes I bite my lip, I need to, but to say, all that to say, I want to share a couple things. Let me start with this. Family farm. This is my John Deere, this is my goat. You would never wear this to work. Where's my farm? It's your go-to-town jacket, isn't it? It'd be in the truck, and you wouldn't get this dirty. You'd be proud of this, isn't it? Because you bought enough John Deere equipment, they finally gave you one. So that symbolizes family farm. I did, for full disclosure, we started out red paint. I learned to drive on an M Farmall. Where's my M Farmall guys here? Show. Oh yeah. I put that thing down in Bulldog. Oh, I thought I was king of the hill when I was 8 years old. But I don't know if y'all saw that post. Proud Franklin Simpson, FFA officer, drove our ag teachers nuts. Mr. James Hammer, World War II veteran from a little old dirt road farm down around Tompkinsville. Wonderful man. I learned leadership there and teamwork that it never really occurred to me until so many years later. Do I have that right? When you look back? But I'm really proud. It still fits. I don't know if y'all saw them in pictures when I was up at Greenup County. It still fits. Ladies, it does. She's shocking. It still fits. Now, I have one that sort of wore out because this was my nice one when I had to go to an officer event. And of course, I got Charlie Kirk, one of my heroes, all of us right here. And then right here, I got 2 articles. Not just you believe anything in the Courier Journal. Oh, by the way, I did a big interview. They ain't going to publish it, I guarantee you. Because they ain't my corner. 1913, my great-grandfather, Herman Young, 1913. What was a good corn yield this year here in Nelson County per acre? Give me a number. 250. 139 bushels, basically 100, with a mule and a hoe. 1913. And then this is my grandfather. He won the youth, Edward G. Sr., he won the youth corn growing contest in 1950. This is not just Jefferson County, this is statewide. Them boys down in western Kentucky, we took them to woodshed, didn't we? Naturally fertile soil because of the floods every year, and that's how we could have that big farm up there if that corn, silage, and hay. And this cattle, really proud of this. And so all that to say, any ladies, any of y'all go over to get the sweet corn at the market? We've been raising sweet corn in Kentucky for over 100 years because we didn't have tobacco base down on the river bottoms. That was our cash crop. So when I was a kid growing up, we're milking 450 Holstein twice a day. We got a mule with a wooden sled, 42-inch row corn, and we're picking corn with corn knives to go down to the water. Think about that. When I look back at it now, I think we've lost our mind. But my dad and Uncle Bill knew you were gonna have rainy days, and we had to keep doing that sweet corn. So my cousin Bill and Uncle Bill kept doing it when they came on up here and such. Last couple things, really powerful. Oh yeah, Marty Franklin Simpson. Yeah, we were 13-0 and then lost in Fort Thomas Highland City kids up, played at Western. And then I got to get the Mighty Murray State Racer, Racer Nation here. We got any Western folks in here? Where's the Hilltoppers? No Hilltoppers?
No, they're here.
Oh, wait. Oh my goodness. All right, well, I don't want to get sideways with them, but my senior year beat them 49-0. No, seriously. 49-0. They were #1 in the nation when they came into Murray. And then there's, of course, my still fits ladies. They all still fit. I had to lose a lot of weight. I forgot to serve. Dr. VA and said, you need to lose that weight for me. And then last couple things, and these are the most important things. This is you. This is this community. Now, it happens to have a veteran in the middle. You notice Norman Rockwell is one of my heroes. And this is long before his election. I had this up for the kids. The grandkids love to look at it, and they always find something new. So kids, y'all can look at this if you want to. But you notice he's got this boy right here with the crutches. You can't see if his leg's gone, can you? But it probably is. And he's got that community with all that worry and all that Christianity. Isn't that powerful? That's powerful. I love him. And then this one right over here I like, because this is about the American citizen. All right? This is you. Your voice needs to be heard, and I need to protect that. You don't need a beat down for somebody who calls himself a Republican but behaves in another way like a radical Democrat. You need to be heard. I'll listen. As I said, I got 4 master's degrees. I'm a project management professional, Lean Six Sigma, certified post-secondary inspector, yada, yada. You know what all that education taught me? How much I don't know. Best thing I can do is do my homework, show up, ask a good question, shut up and listen. The other thing is, if I'm trying to bring people around to my way of thinking, is to say something that helps them see. Challenge them in a nice way. Don't give up your principles, but I really like it's powerful, isn't it? And then the last thing, I will close with this. I was proud to be a member of SEAL Team 6. Just a couple things about that. Y'all heard that SEAL training is legendary. What, only about 20% make through, right? Y'all seen that stuff about buds and what all? I want you to hold that thought. So you got the regular SEAL teams. Let's talk about SEAL Team 6 for a minute. This is all I can tell you. I want you to imagine an all-star team, and the only way you can get there is the boys already on the all-star team invite you to come. They don't invite you to join, they invite you to try out. Only 2 of 9 in my class made it to an assault team. 2 of 9. The 9 are already the 9 top performing SEAL officers throughout the United States Navy. That's no point of importance. What I want you to know is people, every minute of every hour of every day of every week of every month of every year, that unit, like Delta, ready to go to war for you and our nation. One last thing, you military folks can't answer this question. What are the only 2 things a commissioned U.S. military officer says an oath to? I know y'all want to say, General, you can't do it, so you can't do it. What are the only 2 things an officer says an oath to? Any guesses? When I do my oath,
Protect.
that's right. But what documents or what entities do I swear an oath to?
Constitution.
Constitution. What's the other thing?
The Bible.
The Lord. That's why that guy Kelly, that made those seditious statements about lawful orders, could possibly be brought back on active duty. General, that never goes away, does it, Colonel? No. That goes to eternity and beyond. The Uniform Code of Military Justice, a different set of laws, applies to us till we go to our grave, doesn't it, gentlemen? And we knew that when we signed up for it. Enlisted, that's the only 2 things we say an oath to. Only. Enlisted do the Constitution, the Lord, the President, and the officers appointed over them. Think how clever that was by our founding fathers to build that in. I want you to understand that's the way I see the world. So when I joined Duty Honor Country, Faith, Family, Freedom, inspired by President Reagan back in 1983, is the same reason I accepted the president's challenge to serve again. And it's for the folks that this right here, as the service members can tell you, there's a story behind every one of these devices that's not about me. I can't take credit for those 3 Bronze Star medals and that combat jump badge with Bronze Star. It's for those I served with. I honor them. And that's really what this shadow box is all about right here, to honor them and what they did. And that helps me remember that. Well, I will close with this, and I want to thank y'all for your time. And I'm going to remind you, it's not about what happens here in this room. Go talk to your friends, go talk to your relatives in terms of where we're at. The stakes are going to get nothing but higher, are they not, with those votes? When I go up here, here's what you can count on. You'll be proud when you see me stand on that mezzanine where all that marble is and those cameras are there. You will be proud of me and say, that boy's from Kentucky. I know him. I will make you proud. The days of TED Talks are over. I got 16 seconds, don't I speak fluent Kentucky, no nonsense. I'll be talking right to the American people. Same thing when I stand out on those Capitol steps, you will be proud. But you better believe the radical Democrats, my opponent and supported by him, George Soros, who's funding him, China, Russia, North Korea, and the last elements of those left in Tehran do not want me in Washington. Why? I'm their worst nightmare. Am I not?
Yep.
So I need y'all's help to get there. Please vote. I appreciate your vote. And as we close out here, I really like this. That's the farm, and that's the chapel. That's Kentucky. We started to put a little factory and a business on there, but got a little busy. But again, that symbology speaks volumes. So thank y'all for your time. Thank you. No, I only step up on behalf of those I serve, but I want to thank y'all for what y'all do. Sure enough. Thank you, young man.
So just a couple things, there are more goodies.